Good afternoon and welcome to our final session of the day for our first ever digital adventure field trip. We're going to end the day today coming back home to Yellowstone National Park and an Idaho author. So our Idaho author today joining us is named Sylvia Medina. She is originally from Arizona, but she currently lives in Idaho Falls, so just outside of Yellowstone. And she has a story for us today about a very famous grizzly bear that often makes the news. Some of you may have heard of this grizzly bear before. The grizzly's name is Grizzly 399. So I'm going to let Ms. Medina read her story to us, and then she's going to share some information with us about grizzly bears in Yellowstone. And then if you've got questions as you listen to the story and as you listen to the information about bears, feel free to throw them in the chat box because we will have a short Q&A at the end of the story. So Ms. Medina, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And I think I'm showing your Grizzly 399 book on the screen for everybody to watch. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you. So I'm Sylvia Medina, and I'm an author, and this story is based originally in Yellowstone, and the bears end up migrating to Teton National Park. So let's go ahead and get started. And I wrote this book, and then I have some special photography by Thomas Mangelson that you'll see at the end, and a wonderful illustrator by the name of Morgan Spicer. So she's come up with these great photos. Okay, Grizzly 399. Okay. And I'm not going to read all this. We'll just keep going to the next after that. That's kind of what they call a forward. Okay. So it was dark in the cave where Sister Bear was sleeping. She was cuddled up against her mother and two brothers, Little Cub and Big Cub, who were all snoring loudly. Swishing sounds came from the cave's opening. So just a little note, so if you go to the bottom of the book, it says Sister Bear is real life is known as Grizzly 399. So this is her as a cub, okay? And she's looking at the cave. It's like snowy outside. Oh my gosh. Okay. Sister Bear peeked outside and sniffed the cold air. As she looked about, she saw that the world was covered in a fluffy white blanket. She took 2 careful steps out of the cave. When her furry paws sank into the cold, she jumped back. Oh, it's cold, she thought. Look, she'd never been outside ever in her whole life because she was just barely born. Sister Bear looked down the tree-covered slope. It sparkled in the moonlight. Suddenly she had an idea. She bolted from the cave and ran down the hill as fast as she could, kicking up a cloud of white powder as she bounded down the slope. She stumbled over a snow-covered rock and rolled the rest of the way to the bottom. Woof! She landed in a deep snowdrift. Uh-oh, she took off and left her cave. Her mother and brothers had awakened and came running down the hill after her. The boy cubs rolled and tumbled behind her mother, who was loping along down the hill with a stern look on her face. Now you've done it, her mother said. We have to climb all the way up back to our den. So it's like, oh no, here we go. She's all happy because she likes the snow. Now, if any of you have been to Yellowstone, think of this, the artist who helped me. She had real pictures to take her to actually base her drawings on. So you'll see some pictures that you might be familiar with. Her mother then paused and looked around. She sighed. Well, since we're down here, I might as well show you some of your new world. As the eastern sky turned pink and gold, her mother led them through the woodlands to a wide rushing stream. She took a drink and then motioned for them to do the same. Okay, their mother led them to some geysers, steaming pits that sprayed water from the ground. These are hot, their mother said. Stay away from these. Yep, that's what you see in Yellowstone. It's like, they wandered on and soon came to a mountain. The young cubs followed their mother up the steep slope. When they got to the top, their mother looked off in the distance toward a great mountain range. Those are the tallest things I've ever seen, thought Sister Bear. Look, children, her mother said. Someday you may want to go live in those great mountains. There are streams full of fish, and you can also hunt elk or forage for huckleberries and white bark pine seeds. See, she's like pointing out where they can go. They're looking at her. And if you notice, Sister Bear is the one who's got little long eyelashes, so you can tell her apart. She's got big eyes. Sister Bear looked at the faraway craggy peaks of the glacier. She couldn't imagine climbing so high or living so far from her family. Let's go back to the den and get some rest, her mother said. They returned to the cave to wait for spring. So let's go finish, sleeping, hibernating away. Spring soon arrived, and the bear family emerged from their den. Most of the snow had melted, and the world looked fresh and green. Sister Bear, Little Cub, and Big Cub romped through wide meadows, rolling and playing among the budding wildflowers. So they're just having a great time playing while the snow's melting. Their mother led the cubs to the stream once more. Suddenly, something caught her eye, and she pounced. She pulled a large trout from the water. It glistened in the morning sun as she held it in her great, powerful jaws. She dropped it in front of Sister Bear and her brothers. She took a small bite and then nudged it toward Sister Bear. Eat, she said. Sister Bear and her brothers took turns taking bites of delicious fish. Okay, next one. See, there she is with the fish, so she's happy, gonna feed her bears, her babies. Okay. Their mother taught them to fish, and they watched as she hunted for elk. As spring became summer, the cubs roamed the mountains and forests with their mother while she hunted and fished. The little cubs were happily eating, playing, and growing fast. Look at, they're looking around, learning how to hunt and fish. One day in the late summer, their mother took them to the woods and showed them some bushes full of sweet, juicy huckleberries. As the cubs ate the berries and their muzzles turned purple, their mother said, "Fill your tummies, children. We need to eat a lot because winter is coming soon." Just a question you guys can answer later. I wonder how many of you have had huckleberries here in Idaho. They're pretty good. Okay, and the bears like them too. Okay. Several days later, they began the long trek back up to their den. Sister Bear looked off at the faraway mountain range as they plodded along. She was curious to see the place her mother had described. She's thinking about the mountains. So after 2 full summers, they learned from their mother how to hunt and care for themselves. They would retreat to their cave to hibernate and wait out the long winter. So at the end of the summertime, they're going to hibernate once more. By their 3rd spring, which is the 3rd year they're alive, Sister Mother's Bear led the cubs to the stream once more. She sat down and looked at them thoughtfully. "You children have grown. You're getting to be great big bears. It's time for you to go out on your own now." "But Mama," Sister Bear cried, "we're still your babies. We want to stay with you." Little Cub and Big Cub began to moan and whine and shake their furry little heads. "No, Mama, don't make us go away." "I'm going now," their mother growled firmly. "You cannot follow me. You must make your own way in the world." See the looks on their faces? They're like, "Mom, you're leaving us." Sister Bear and her brother sat by the stream and watched their mother walk away. The little girl cried a big tear as she watched her mother's big rump disappear into the trees. Oh man, she left them. Sister Bear and her brothers waited all day and into the night, hoping their mother would return. When morning came, Sister Bear looked at the mountains and then said to her brothers, "I'm going to the mountains. Mother said they're amazing, and there's lots of food there." So she's going to leave and leave her brothers. Big Cub yawned. "We're hungry right now, Sister Bear. You can go to the mountains if you want. But Little Cub and I are going to forage for food right here." "Very well then," said Sister Bear. She turned and headed for the majestic peaks in the distance. Remember, Sister Bear is Bear 399, okay? And we'll tell you about that in a few minutes. Sister Bear traveled for many days, living on berries and some fish that she caught in the streams until she reached the mountains. She climbed to a high peak and looked down over a wide valley with a crystal blue river through it. Sister Bear sniffed the air. "This will be my home forever," she said to herself. She thought of her mother and wished that she could be with her. Sister Bear lived happily in the mountains for many years. See how beautiful it is? And that's Mount Moran out in Teton National Park. So let's keep going. One hot summer day, Sister Bear found some delicious hawthorn berries and ate until her muzzle was covered in red juice. She went to the stream to wash her face. As she was splashing about, keeping her eyes peeled for a trout or two, she heard a noise in the woods. What do you think she sees? There's somebody back there hiding in the background. See it? "Big Cub, Little Cub, is that you?" she cried. A male bear emerged from the trees. "Who are you?" Sister Bear asked. The bear walked up to her. "My name is Brutus," he replied. He began to lick the leftover berry juice from Sister Bear's muzzle. She giggled. "Stop, that tickles," she said. "Hey, you want to catch some fish with me?" Brutus asked. "I know a place farther up the stream where lots of trout gather." "I'd love to," Sister Bear replied. Oh, look at, he likes her. The 2 bears went off to a fine hearty meal. Sister Bear liked Brutus very much, and they became close friends. They stayed together for many weeks, splashing in the streams by day and cuddling under stars at night, as owls hooted in the trees overhead. So they look like they're pretty good friends, huh? Don't you guys think? Okay. One day, Brutus roamed off without a word. Sister Bear was sad, but she couldn't think about it. She needed to find food, and winter was coming. Sister Bear was growing into a healthy bear. She grew quite fat as she ate lots and lots of rodents and berries. She's very, very beautiful. One day, she encountered an animal she'd never seen before. It walked on 2 legs and carried some sort of stick that made a loud, booming noise. She recalled her mother saying something about this animal. He was called Man, and that he wasn't always friendly. See, she's looking. There he is right there. She would hide whenever she saw this creature with his noisy stick. At times, she watched as men shot elks with their sticks. She would wait until the men would disappear and then feast on the leftover carcasses or the leftover meat. Although she enjoyed the leftovers, she was always watchful of Man, for her mother had told her how dangerous he could be. Soon the snow began to fall. Sister Bear went into hibernation. That means she went to go to sleep for a few months during the wintertime. One day in her cozy den, she gave birth to 3 cute little bear cubs, 2 girls and 1 boy. She was so happy with her new family, and she suckled them until spring arrived. So she gave them milk until it was springtime. When the snow began to melt and the trees began to bud, Sister Bear emerged from her cave, her 3 little chubby cubs trailing behind her. Aw, look at her with her cubs. She taught them all the things that her mother had taught her, how to forage for berries and to fish. She also taught them to avoid Man. Sometimes as they roamed through their home in the national park, they would see lines of cars filled with humans. The people in the cars would stare at them. At first, Sister Bear thought they might be a threat, and she'd growl at the cars, but in time, she got used to them. So if you see these cars, these are the cars where the rangers are at, and you can see the kids trying to see the bears. And see, they're all looking. They're like, oh my God, they're watching us. And bears actually stand just like that. It's really cute. Okay. One sunny April day, Sister Bear and her cubs were finishing off a tasty elk that she had taken. She heard a noise and stood up on her back legs, sniffing the air. A man wearing a hat suddenly came upon them. He stopped and stared at them. Mama, her girl cub cried, will he take our food? Sister Bear let out a deafening roar. No, my little one, he won't. Sister Bear ran towards the man and knocked him to the ground. His hat flew off and he began to yell. She then sat down on top of him and started to bite his head. So he was kind of threatening the cubs, she thought. So she was going to protect her babies. Her cubs came running, calling out to her, Mom, you said we were to leave Man alone, they cried. Sister Bear growled once more and then got up. Letting the man go free, he grabbed his hat and ran away towards the woods. Now, this is actually based on a true story. So, the beginning, it's a story, but this actually did happen. This man came and he went where he wasn't supposed to. So, you're right, children. I'm sure moose taste much better anyways, she said. So she left the man alone. Later that summer, as storm clouds blew in from the west, Sister Bear was scratching her rump against a pine tree. Suddenly she felt a sharp sting and she began to feel very sleepy. See, she got a sting right there on her bum. See her? When she awoke, Sister Bear had tags in her ears. Her babies laughed when they saw the strange stings dangling from her ears. They look like earrings, huh? Grizzly 399 was the 399th bear tagged by the Park Service. So essentially what the parks put tags on the bear's ears, and it's got 399. So she was the 399th bear that they tagged in the park. She also had an odd ring around her thick, furry neck. Sister Bear went crazy trying to get the collar off. She would rub it against logs, scratch it with her huge claws, and she even let her cubs chew on it. Eventually it came off, but in no time, the same thing happened. She went to sleep and woke up wearing another collar. People in green uniforms were always watching her. So they put collars on the bears so that they can make sure to know where the bears are. That's why the national parks do that, okay? There was also another man who followed her around the mountains. He didn't seem threatening. Instead of a stick, he had a little box on a strap around his neck that went click, click, click. He never came close to her or her cubs. Sister Bear got used to the man hanging around with his little box. Sometimes she would stand up and pose for him, showing her huge bare teeth and a big bear smile, with her earrings on, see? Okay. Seasons passed and Sister Bear had more cubs. In turn, her cubs had babies as well. So her babies grew up and had babies too. In the springtime, they would meet up along the streams and in the valleys. So they had to have a big family reunion. Sister Bear noticed that her daughter, her firstborn, had taken a liking to one of her youngest boy cubs. So she's like right here. One day she turned around and saw her cub scampering away with her daughter. See, so this is Grizzly 399. That's one of her daughters. And her daughter likes 399's baby. She turned and looked at her one day she turned around and saw her cub scampering away with her daughter. She turned and looked at her remaining cubs. I guess it's just us three for now, she said as she gave them each a hug. So her own cub adopted her baby cub. And that's a true story. It took it off. One autumn day when there was a chill in the air, Sister Bear was searching for her two youngest cubs. They had wandered off foraging for berries. They were both full of mischief and liked to hide in the thick, dark pines. Sister Bear stood up and took some deep bear breaths. She was trying to get her cubs sent on the wind, so she's smelling for her cubs. She couldn't find her little ones anywhere. She began to cry. See, she's crying because she can't find her cubs. A moment later, she saw the friendly man. Click, click went the box. The man looked at her and he nodded towards some trees. Sister Bear looked toward the pines and saw her cubs running toward her. She looked at the man and gave one final roar to say, "Thank you." It was time to find another nice den in which to hibernate. Sister Bear took one last look at the man before heading towards the high peaks. She caught his scent on the breeze as he raised his arm and waved to her. She knew she would see him again when the spring flowers bloomed. Okay, so the man who she saw, and it's a true story of a man, his name is Thomas Mangelson. He's a famous photographer in the whole world. And he lives in Teton National Park where Grizzly 399 now lives. So she was born in Yellowstone. And this is her. Look at those big claws on her. She's got huge claws. Okay, and so she walks along the roadside. She knows all the people. So let's go to, and she's 24 years old, okay? Okay. And you know what they use the word iconic. That means a really special person or animal. And they call Grizzly 399, she's an iconic mother because she had 17 cubs and many grandchildren. And she said she actually had 3 sets of triplets. And last spring, she had a set of 4. And so look at this, there's the 4 she had last spring. And they consider her a grandmother bear. So Grandma Bear had 4 cubs, okay? So let's keep going. So I guess she wasn't a grandma after all. So Grizzly Line taught him how to fish and how to get berries and how to hunt for elk in the elk refuge. And these are actual pictures in Teton National Park, okay? At least 3 of Grizzly 399's cubs. Well, so here we're going to tell you about what happens to some of the cubs. Some of the cubs have gotten killed by people here in the area. One got killed because it was illegally killed by a deer hunter just outside of the park. And one was removed because it was causing trouble in an area, and they moved it up to the forest lands, and it started taking cattle. And so the fishing game ended up having to put the cub down, which is very sad to me because, you know, sometimes I wonder why are cattle in the forests. But anyways, in 2019, a hunter bragged that he killed 399, but she was found. She had just come out of hibernation. Okay. So here's some grizzly facts, and then I want to tell you about hunting. So grizzly noses are dished with the curve. So since you guys live in Idaho, you need to look at these facts because there's grizzlies in this part of the country in the part of the state where I live. But if you start going north to Montana and eventually in the Boise area, I wouldn't be surprised if one of these days you see some grizzlies coming, because we used to start, originally there were 300 grizzlies here. Now there's almost 1,000 in this area. So if you look at them, they are very different from black bears. Grizzlies have a huge hump, see, due to the massive muscles in their shoulders. They have short, round ears, and they have their noses are dished with the curve, if you've seen that. Okay. Okay. Grizzly bears are omnivorous. That means they not just like meat, but they love bugs, they love vegetables, they like to eat flowers, white bark pine seeds, huckleberries. And if you see, the grizzly bear claws are 2 to 4 inches long. So you're talking about this long as your finger is. And they're curved so that they can dig in the ground. And grizzly bears have about 1 to 4 babies per year or every 3 years. And they're normally twins or triplets, but they come out toothless and blind and with no hair when they're first born. Okay. So they're also keystone predators because what that means is that they hunt in the area and they help keep some of the population down. So that means that the ecosystem where the animals live is healthy. That means it's healthy because there's not too many elk and there's not too many deer, and it makes it just right. So right now there's about 55,000 grizzlies that live in the United States and Canada and Alaska. But down in lower under, we're south of Canada. When we first started the Endangered Species Act, which protects grizzly bears, there was only 350 bears in 1975, because before there was many, many more, and all over the states and Colorado, everywhere. There's no grizzlies in Colorado anymore, New Mexico, Arizona, or California. There's no more of those bears because they got taken. And now we're up to 737 bears in 2019. So let's talk about human interaction and grizzly bears. Okay, grizzly bear deaths happen often because of, in the parks, there's automobile accidents. People are going way too fast driving when they should slow down. They'll hit a grizzly bear. Grizzlies go and get into people's garbage, and campers leave their food out. And so when you're camping, you guys need to make sure to put away your food and don't let it be accessible to any animals, not just grizzly bears. Because what happens is when they get used to eating that food, then they start going to where there's people, and pretty soon something happens to the people. And then the park has to come and euthanize or kill the bears. And we don't want that. Grizzlies are often mistaken for black bears. And so that was the great reason that we were showing you some of those pictures of what a grizzly looks like. But what's interesting in the United States, there's many national parks. There's Yellowstone, there's Tetons, there's the Grand Canyon. There's national parks all over the country, and probably, 300 or 400 parks. But there's only one park that hunting is legal, and it's Teton National Park. And we don't know, I don't exactly know why they allow hunting there, but it's a problem source for a lot of people because hunters really should not be hunting in a national park. And so there's a lot of issues with it. You see the hunters down there hunting right where the park is. And what happens is they come and they hunt right there and they kill elk, and then the grizzlies come there and they encounter people, and there's been some problems that have happened. And then what will happen is if a grizzly hurts a hunter by accident, then they'll have to put the bear down, and they won't survive. Okay. And so there's issues with climate change. You talked about global warming. The grizzlies used to like to be way high up in the mountains because there's what they call white bark pine, and there's been a fungus that's come in and killed a lot of those trees, so they come down to the lower areas. And also there's problems with the fish that are brought in from other parts of places. There's a reintroduction of trout that doesn't belong here, and those trout take the fish that the grizzlies are used to eating. So that's kind of the story, and let's keep going a little bit. Okay, so this is what a family tree is. Maybe some of you guys know what a family tree is. So if your family, you might have your mom and dad on the top, and you'll show all the different kids that they have and then the kids that they have. So this is Sister Bear Grizzly 399's family tree. Started in 1996 when she was born, and see her 4 cubs. They're at the very bottom on the right side. They still don't have numbers. Some of them have numbers on the top. You see 587, 610, 615. Those are all different cubs that she's had. And if you go into Teton National Park, you might see these guys right now because they're out running around. They're out in hibernation, and it's just great to see them. So let's go on. And this is 399 actually crossing the river down in that area. And many of you might know what Facebook is. Grizzly 399 has her own Facebook page. You should know that. She's got many, many followers. And we give some of our money to different organizations. And I'm going to show you something else. This is a book we just wrote in the area. So you should go to Teton National Park, Yellowstone National Park, and tell your mom and dad that you want to see Grizzly 399 or see other bears because they're like wild all over the area. And we just also finished this book just recently, and it's about the bears actually hibernating and what it's like to have 5 bears squished in a den. And we just thought it would be a fun story to write. So that's kind of the story, and it's in this area, and you guys can easily get there if your folks will take you for a drive. And this is Tom Engelson. This is the photographer that you saw in the book. And he's out there taking photos every day, taking more beautiful pictures. And the pictures in the back of the book are his. So that's the story. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you. Okay, we just have like a couple of minutes here before we wrap up this session. Anyone have questions about grizzly bears or Yellowstone National Park or the Grand Teton National Park? You can throw them in the chat box and we'll see if we can get Ms. Medina to answer them for us. What did this story make you think about, or what did this story make you wonder?
That's from a question to me?
No, to the kids. I'm hoping okay. I'm hoping maybe they'll throw something your way.
Or have any of them seen a grizzly bear in a while?
Ooh, there's a question. They're wondering why bears have to be put down if they attack humans.
Because they don't have a fear of humans. And normally if they've attacked one person, they might attack another one. And that's just how the bear management, that's how the United States of America manages their bears. So it's sad, but that's the way it is. So
we have another great question from Mrs. Mueller's classroom. They want to know how long it took you to write this book.
Well, it's really interesting because when I talked to Tom Engelson, the photographer, I had to talk him into doing his book with me. And he made me read his whole book. He had this really big, huge book about her. And I read the whole book, and I think I have it back there. And it took me probably about 5 months because I had to do all my research, my homework, and I'm really happy with the way it came out because it's really provided a lot of joy to people, and they learn about grizzly bears. So it took me a little bit.
Well, the next question, Ms. Rodriguez's class wants to know where they can purchase the books. Well, I have great news for you. Ms. Medina has actually donated a copy of Grizzly 399 for each one of our 6 elementary schools. So I will be dropping by next week to put a copy of this book in Wilson Elementary's library for you all to check out and read. And I also have a copy of the Lion book for Jefferson and for Syringa. So if you were in the earlier session with the library book about the lion hunting, the Syringa and Jefferson Library will each get one of those. Ms. Medina, can you give us the Green Kids Club website so in case the teachers wanted to go in and check that out?
Oh, yes, it's a www.greenkidsclub.com. And we also did an inspired classroom Grizzly Bear 399. And at some point in time, if you kids want to do something this summer, we might have something that they can log on and learn more about her and maybe win a free book themselves. So
that's fantastic. Well, it looks like we're getting a lot of thank yous in the chat box here. So we appreciate your time this afternoon. We appreciate your donation of this awesome story to our Caldwell Elementary libraries. And we want to thank you and wish you a great Friday afternoon. Thank you.
One last thing, I will send you guys a book for our new book to each of your classes too. Okay.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day. Go see Grizzly 399.